COVID-19 pandemic is important by storm, and it's our duty to stop the spread. The Nigerian government has announced the reopening of possible exchange along the South Station, River Station, in fact, to promote webinar and are building awareness for the coronavirus spread environment. But the aim is to ensure and critical orientation on COVID-19. This month will be the first of Professor Julie, President, Dr. Edward USGEEAN, Vice President, Professor Francis William, Finance Administrator, Professor Simeon Achille, COVID-19 prevention.
morning, everybody. This is an advocacy program put together by the U.S. Government Exchange Alumni Association of Nigeria, Rivers State Chapter. And this morning we're examining the issue of preparedness of tertiary institutions to receive students that have been at home for a better part of this year as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus. Parents are anxious, students are tired of staying at home. The question is, how prepared is the Nigerian government? How prepared is NUC? How prepared are the individual institutions in terms of putting policy in place and practically ensuring that the institutions are compliant to all the protocols of COVID-19 in terms of readiness to receive the students? We have this morning with us representatives of tertiary institutions within Rivers State. And we are being hosted by the University of Port Harcourt Center for Occupational Health and Safety. They are hosting us. We thank the University of Port Harcourt for that. And we thank the US consulates that have always sponsored us, that took us to experience higher education in America. And since we returned, we've been giving back to our society. So we're going to hear from the representative of the participating institutions as they tell us how prepared they are to receive the students that are getting restless in their homes and are eager to come back to finish their studies. We have representatives from the University of Port Harcourt as a participating institution. We have from the Rivers State University. We have from Ignatius Ajuru University, and we have from Captain Elechi Amadi University. I want to welcome all of you, and I welcome all viewers around the world who are linked up to this program. COVID-19 is a problem that has affected the studies of students around the world. It's not limited to Nigeria. I'm aware that institutions in the US have reopened and they are struggling on how to maintain the students. These are young adults. Most of them they want to live their life and they don't believe that COVID-19 will affect them so much in terms of the kind of sickness that older generation people are experiencing. Thank God we have a medical doctor. We have here with us the provost of the College of Health Sciences, University of Port Harcourt, Professor Simile. He is going to address the issue from the perspective of the medical profession. Also, he's the chairman of the Uniport COVID-19 team, so he's going to educate us. We have a former VC of Rivers State University, another statesman, himself an ex-scholar of the Fulbright program. He's our father here. He's going to be the first person to give a shot to the discussion which we're hosting this morning. Once more, I want to welcome all of you. I want to thank especially the US Consulate for putting this together as part of the contribution of US Government Exchange Alumni Association of Nigeria to the society to make sure that institutions are ready, are protocol ready to receive students who will soon be called back to resume their studies. I want to now seize the opportunity of this morning's program to thank our elder statesman, Professor Simeon Ashilewu, who is with us, and to say we are ready for him to speak to us. Generally, we know he's an SVC of River State University, but even though he's retired, he's not tired. I'm sure he's going to speak not only for River State University, but generally as a scholar under the platform of US Government Exchange Alumni Association of Nigeria on how he expects the tertiary institutions within River State to prepare to receive students. Thank you very much.
that are embarking on e-learning, online teaching. The rest of the public universities stay locked down. Students are almost losing a whole session. We don't even know whether it will end. But we are praying that God will intervene accordingly. But we have been taught one lesson. What we have a deficiency in educational infrastructure. That is one lesson we learn here. If private universities can perform their teaching online, why can't the public universities? And this also, as I said, has shown us so that we have to develop let's learn that lesson. That the infrastructure has been developed. What it needs is money to install the panels. Bayero University, Federal University in Kano, Bayero University, had advanced so much so that they have declared themselves now that they are self-sufficient by use of solar energy. Other public universities should follow suit, but it needs money. It needs money. Public universities are public universities. sponsored by governments, whether it is federal or state. Budgetary allocation should be made to support tertiary institutions to develop these things for the interest of our generation, future generation. Education is the most important industry in the whole world, an industry that trains manpower in all sectors. There was a joke yesterday in the solar and media. A doctor and a teacher, who is the most important? Argument was there. The person who supported the teacher said the doctor would not have been if the teacher had not been. Yes. The teacher taught him. So the teacher is the greatest. And therefore, we must have to sponsor the university and the other institutions very well. I also remember somebody who made a joke on the kernel when teachers were being vilified. He said the teacher is a kernel. The kernel says, don't laugh at me because the pantry is my son. The small kernel will do the pantry. Without that kernel, the pantry will not be. So governments will do very well in funding the universities, the institutions dealing with education very, very well. There's a recommendation by UNESCO of 26% of budgetary allocation should be devoted to education. If you look at all our states, less than 5% of budgetary allocation has been given to education. For a long time, can we change this pandemic? Teaching us a lesson. So let government take note that the public university is known as public university and must be sponsored by government. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
tell them launch and then host those classes. The reason being that most of them operate in such a way that the audience, that is in this case the students, can use the free version to join the classes. And as I speak today, all graduate programs in the university have been able to accomplish the task of their first semester. For us in River State University, we were forced to take exam the day the National University Commission on the 21st of March asked all tertiary institutions to close them. That day would have been the first day of our exam. So the university, knowing that any day we are recalled, or if the pandemic persisted, that there will be a need for us to launch that exam, also began the development of a learning management system. The learning management system we developed in River State University at our Center for Information and Communication Technology is so robust that in the university at undergraduate level, we have about 2,000 courses. And this platform has the capacity to hold between 40 and 45 exams simultaneously, depending on the number of students. Meaning that we have a situation where if today, barring constraint on the part of the student, because the only reason we have not had that exam are two. One is that we don't, we want to wait for instruction from authorities like NUC and the River State government who are the owners of the university. Then second, we're also mindful that some of the students who want to administer this exam to have gone back to their communities. This is a state university and people come from far and wide to attend our university, and the majority of these people may not live in urban places like Port Harcourt. So those who have gone back to the remote places, they have problem of connectivity. They also have the problem of having a good platform on which to launch the learning management system that we have developed. I have built the learning management system. I have seen how effective it will be. The way it looks, it appears it is best used when you are using a laptop and when you are using a handset. So given that constraint, the university has stepped down the administration of examination. Instead, what they have done was to continue with the graduate classes. I taught about 4 classes at PGD, Masters and PhD between April and July. And the good thing I noticed was that it was a very flexible program. You set up a WhatsApp platform for all their students. You discuss on timing for classes. Some people will prefer morning, others afternoon, others evening. And when there is a consensus, you go online and people log in. I want to say that I was mildly impressed. I was impressed because there's a class that had about 30 students. I have never had 30 of them log in, come physically to attend that class. But when I was using virtual means to teach, I constantly had an average of 25 people or more. And the remainder who didn't turn up didn't do so because they had technical problems, not because they are not aware or they are not ready. Even some of our graduate students work, and because they work, depending on the kind of job, they are out of town sometimes. We saw people log in from distant places, from oil rig platforms, from cities outside River State. So we have concluded in River State University that we will never go back to a situation where our graduate students in particular will take classes solely on a face-to-face basis. We must try to create a hybrid, a combination where practicals, laboratory works are taken on a physical basis, while theoretical aspects of a class can be taken remotely. This saves people a lot of problems, such as transportation, such as even cost of coming. I have a student who lives in Warren, who is doing a PhD, and he comes in every week to take the 2-day classes that he is entitled to, because if he doesn't come, he may not be allowed to write the exam, given the university regulation that you must attend 75% of your classes. But even if he doesn't want to come and is allowed to write, how can somebody really float with a class that he didn't attend? You know, so somebody like that student had to take all my classes from the comfort of his home or office in Warren, and he is very grateful for that. We're also going ahead with the supervision of students. Now, most of what we are doing in River State University, like I have said before, are concentrated so far on graduate students. The reasons are very simple. Our undergraduates were to start the exam the day we were directed by the federal government to close down schools. So the only other thing we should do with undergraduate is to present the exams to them. I've already mentioned why we are not able to do that so far. But the university is ready to examine students if the students are ready and the government is willing to allow us carry out our plans. As to challenges on reopening, assuming today COVID-19 comes to a halt and we are expected to come back and resume school normally. In May, the Vice Chancellor called a meeting of principal officers and directed that we should come up with a protocol for reopening. So that protocol has been in place since May. It is divided into three. One is accommodation. How will accommodation look like during COVID or post-COVID period? Secondly was academics. What will be the layout of the classrooms and laboratories and studios? Then the third one is the health. So these three areas, I have, for instance, chaired the committee as Director Academic Planning for the academic side of it. All this committee went and came up with a very robust plan. And what are those plans? For instance, we have set up facilities that will see that, first, we took inventory of what we have on ground, the hostel spaces, the classroom spaces, the laboratory spaces. Then we looked at our student population, and we now agreed that, look, in certain situations, some places may take all the students that are required to be present there. In other situations where the student number may be too much, they should be brought in batches. And we explored a lot of options. For instance, the university has a radio station. We looked at the possibility of broadcasting certain general courses through the radio. But it also had its drawbacks, because when you broadcast through radio, it means it will go beyond the fence of the university. Then we also looked at the use of remote learning, which is already being done at graduate level. We also cautioned on the need to be inclusive so that all students have the opportunity of participating in the classes they've registered for. Then, of course, there is the face-to-face. And the face-to-face is where we will apply all the COVID-19 rules as published by the Federal Ministry of Education and the CDC. That rule is already out there, and my university has already adopted and domesticated it to our protocol. So in classes that are very large, students will need to come in batches, and they will maintain social distancing in such a way that they do not infect whatever they may have on their fellow students. Then the health, before you enter a classroom, hand washing, sanitizer use, the use of face mask. In fact, you cannot cross the university gate when the university resumes without first washing your hands. You must come down from your vehicle, wash your hands, use sanitizer, wear your face mask before you be allowed into the university. All these things are already in place in River State University. So we are poised to reopen. As to the question of whether we are ready to reopen now, yes, River State University is ready to reopen. We have also directed our health services department to service their ambulances and keep them ready. They have also created a small isolation unit where individuals who could be suspected of any condition could be isolated before being reported to authorities outside the universities to manage the cases. So we have that in place. Those are the things River State University have done to prepare themselves for reopening during this COVID-19. I wish to thank everybody.
See the problem we have?
Well done. Thank you. We can
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Will I say, okay, it's still morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to continue on the protocol that is already existing. I have listened keenly to the professors and what has been said so far regards the reopening of schools towards the COVID-19. And it's amazing. It's really, really beautiful. And I think that we've been really, really informed and exceptionally educated. And before the end of this webinar, I'm sure that other speakers will throw a little bit more light and still expand the horizon of our understanding to give us a learning, a COVID-19 free learning environment as we resume school, especially for our university students. Today, I may not be looking at the regulations of the government with regards to the resumption of COVID-19. I will not or may not be looking at the regulations of the government. I will want to take it from a different perspective that relates directly to what I do as a person. And in that regard, briefly, I'll be talking on embracing the new socio-economic normal post-COVID-19 for students. That is, the COVID-19 has changed the system. Before then, I'd like to appreciate the US Embassy Exchange Alumni Association and their president, Professor Mukoro. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. And then I feel privileged understanding that we have a lot of professors right there in the studio listening. I am speaking from Lagos and my name still remains Obidi Emeka Henry. Everything we are used to generally has changed. Everything. Starting from whatever perspective or perception we look at or we look at life, everything has changed globally. There's been a global change because COVID-19 has created a global economic meltdown. Whether you like it or not, things that used to happen before are no longer the way it is right now. If you go to the United States of America, 36 million Americans have lost their job in the time of COVID-19. We have 122 million people lose their jobs in India. We have about 4 million people lose their jobs in Asia. And then if you look at the airlines, they have lost about 133 billion US dollars during the course of COVID-19. So this is a critical period economically all over the world. And then we must begin to adopt the new normal system, adjust, and then flow. Now, how does this relate to the resumption of students in the universities? You see, the school fees and all of these things. Specifically, I would like to talk to the students who are about to resume, wherever you are, be you in Port Harcourt, in whatever part of Nigeria or whatever part of the world you are. As long as you're a student and you're about to resume school, you need to really, really hear this. Now, when we looked at the 80 to 20 law, we had a disparity. And the law says that 80% of the world resources is controlled by 20% of its population. 80% of the world resources is controlled by 20% of its population. Now, what the COVID-19 has done, if you look at it critically, if you use a critical analysis on COVID-19 economically, you would see that the gap between the rich and the poor in some aspects have been further expanded, and that same gap have been reduced because right now the new normal has introduced or given rise to a new system of business. What am I trying to say? As a student in the university, understand that there is a struggle that your parents go through. So paying of school fees and taking care of facilities to enhance the educational system or your education will not be as affordable as it used to be. things are more difficult than it used to be. For instance, the lecturers have been at home for how long? The teachers have been at home for how long? Imagine they've not been collected. Some of them have not collected salaries for so long. Not just the lecturers, in all industries in Nigeria and all over the world. A lot of people have not been paid for a very long time, and now children are about to resume school. So how do they afford the school fees? How do they afford the IT facilities required, like the iPad and the rest of them required, in view of giving the student a conducive learning environment? So in regards to this, the children or the students, especially in the university, we crave that you begin to look into entrepreneurship. You begin to look into means of supporting your parents. There are a lot of students who are already excelling as students. For instance, Jobberman is one of is an industry that was created. And if you look deep, or if you do your research, you will see that Jobberman is a company that was founded by students that are in the university in OAU. And now Push CV also, they are students of Covenant University. My Music, you know, it's also a company that is doing so well, you know, in Nigeria today, and it's a produce of students from Babcock University. So there are advantages in COVID-19. If you check it economically, you would find also that this period of lockdown, that a lot of people are losing their jobs and you know, crying and all of that. We have some aspect of the industry grow beyond human expectation. For instance, Facebook, anything social media is growing. Now, for the comedians, they are not able to go for live shows, but of course, gaming apps have now increased over 72%. And if you go to your YouTube, you would realize that they have had an increase of about 20% of people applying for YouTube monetization. That means that people have now gotten the ability to create. Now, the power to create lies in the hands mostly of the youth. And the youth are the ones that populate these universities. They are the ones that are going to resume the school. Now, social distancing is not just something that you do because the government asks you to do that. There is an advantage to social distancing, because in creating or in the mindset of building a business that would last for generations, as an entrepreneur that a lot of us are going to be as students as well, we must learn how to step aside from the crowd, step aside from the fraternity of too many people at the same time. So social distancing equally has its own advantages. Facebook recorded about 42% increase, while a lot of companies were going down. YouTube has about 107 increase in monetization applications. CSC in Nigeria, that is Corporate Affairs Commission, has about 20%. 20% of people increase in the number of people that want to register new company immediately the COVID-19 lockdown was over. What am I trying to say? It means that people are rising and moving into building a new trend of businesses. You cannot continue the way things used to be. Why? You cannot use an expired information to solve a current problem. Now, the point is, it is time for students to go into entrepreneurship. It is time, as a student of any university that you are in, look within you and ask yourself, what can I do to support my parents? What can I do to yield income? What can I do? Now, there are two sources or two means of looking at a business for the students I am talking to specifically, and even for the lecturers who are strictly lecturing. You can also extend what you do from beyond just lecturing to creating other stream of income. Now, we have the Red Ocean business strategy, which is doing what has been done before, doing what other people have been doing in order to create wealth for themselves, in order to create money for themselves. But for the student, I advise you to apply the Blue Ocean strategy. Now, the Blue Ocean strategy is looking inwards. As a student, you must go back to the definition of education, which is educare and educare, which means bringing forth and bringing out what is within you. Now, there are gifts and there are talents and there are potentials that you have inside you. So it is time to fulfill the real meaning of education, which is bringing forth what is in you. Listen, don't get me wrong. Going to school is primarily to get your basic education and all of that. But then while getting that degree, while getting that certification, you can also apply business strategies. You can create something. So using the blue ocean strategy, it means create something outside the box. Create what may have not been created before. Someone might have done it before, but you give it a niche that only you can do. Okay, now, so we must flow with the new narratives by creating businesses in line with the blue ocean strategies. Now, there are some points that I would need to educate these young ones that are in the university to emulate in view of creating a standard business for themselves. Number one, you must create a unique brand. What is a brand? A brand is the symbolic embodiment of all information that is related to you, related to your person, related to your kind, and related to how you communicate everything about you, everything about what you do. So you must have a brand, a unique brand that people would want to associate with. So in order to build a business, you must create a good brand, because a good brand must communicate effectively. Now, there are some of you who are into the IT. Gaming is one of creating gaming as an app is one of the means at which people have made thousands and millions and billions of dollars during this COVID-19 lockdown. And one of the beautiful facts is this: you can be a student and still create these apps. You can be a student and still do a lot of works with your talent, just using the internet. And in every area, in whatever area you need more information on, realize that the phones that you have is not merely for communication, it is also for business, because that phone, Google, contains over 10 billion pages of information which you can utilize and start making funds out of it. So while you're learning, think business as well, because the economy is not the way it used to be. And there will be an increase in crime if entrepreneurs are not being groomed from the university level. Number two, when you have created a good brand for yourself, you must communicate that brand effectively. Communication is the transmission of information from one person to another, then with a feedback. Communicate your brand. What good is a diamond that nobody can see? Impression without expression will lead to frustration. So what am I saying? Students, while you're doing your studies, as you resume school or from today, begin to think of, number one, what is the brand that I need to represent? And then number two, how do I communicate this brand to the people? Now, Google, YouTube, Facebook, all these appliances has created effective means of letting the people know what you can do. You can take your breaks instead of doing other things and too much mingling that would even increase the COVID-19. You can take that leisure time to develop an advertisement for your brand. So communicate your brand and communicate it effectively. Number three, you must learn to delay gratification. Now, you cannot at every point in time feel that the little money you make, like the natural slang that we have in the amongst our students. Since I'm talking to students, let me talk like a student. I don't hammer. You know, by the time you make your first 100,000, the next thing is I don't hammer. You look for the club, you look for where to spend that money. No, this is an investment era. It's an era where you grow your business by investment. It is not an era that you spend all the money. Delay gratification. There are some things you do for now for free, not because you want to do it for free. There are services you produce without being paid as a student, not because you don't want to get paid, but because you have a future to protect. Listen, until you make a name, you may never make your price. Until you make a name, you may never name your price. So I say it, and I say it very, very strongly: delay gratification. Don't start eating your money or whatever you make immediately you start making it. The next point, number four, is be emotionally intelligent. Be emotionally intelligent. This is exceptionally important. Now, the truth is, for you to handle business in this next dispensation, we are in the relationship era. We have passed the agricultural era. We have passed the industrial era. Right now, we are in information, and information has everything to do with relationship. And one of the ways to maintain relationship as a young entrepreneur is by having emotional intelligence. First, you need to understand you. Because if you don't understand you, you cannot market your business effectively. Understand your temperament. A lot of us are sanguines. We are light bulbs. We are flashy. We like to talk. And then a lot of us are cholerics. We are harsh. We are shark. We use the shark method in relationship, in communication. A lot of us
I'm Provost at the College of Health Sciences, and I bring you the very best wishes of my Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Okodudu. And I also thank the organizers for inviting us to be part of these events today. Anybody living in any part of the world, apart from Antarctica here, knows that COVID-19 has been a major disruptor of life as we know it on Earth today. For us in particular, our medical students were 3 weeks away from writing the final exams when the federal government advised us to shut down. We have just admitted year 1 students who had completed their registration of settling down to lectures when they had to go home again. And so the entire academic calendar of our university has been severely disrupted as a result of this pandemic. Now, my institution was very proactive in tackling COVID-19 because as soon as the first case was reported in Rivers State, my then Vice Chancellor, Professor Ndawa Lale, set up the COVID-19 task force for our university. And that task force, which I happen to head, also includes the Dean of Pharmacy, the Dean of Students Affairs, the PR of the university, the head of the Department of Internal Medicine, Public Health, and of Medical Microbiology. And we're mandated to advise our university on ways and means of preventing COVID-19 from getting to our university. And in the event of COVID-19 getting to our university, to advise management on ways of containing COVID-19. And so following our interactions with management provided hand washing facilities in front of every building in our university. We acquired infrared thermometers so that those with symptoms of COVID-19 could be detected early and sent to the appropriate place for proper care. The university acquired face masks and distributed face free of charge to all those who are still coming to work at the time. The Faculty of Pharmacy and the Department of Pharmacology produced hand sanitizers that we continue to use in our university. Those were things we did at that time as means of preventing COVID-19 and containing it, like I said, in case it's spread to our university. Now, what plans have we put in place to receive our students back? As I speak to you, the university has acquired equipment for sanitizing our university environment. That means spraying hypochloric acid that will disinfect our university environment. We're putting in place measures to enforce hand hygiene, that is washing hands frequently, and where that's not possible to use hand sanitizers. I put in place measures to ensure that face mask wearing is universal and properly done. Because anybody who listens to the director of CDC in his testimony to US lawmakers, I think it was 2 days ago, the face mask is as effective as the vaccine. So if we can get our people to wear face masks efficiently and properly, we hope that we can further contain COVID-19 in our environment. We have also, in addition to these measures, prepared an isolation and treatment center. I'm not sure many universities have done that across this country. And then we've also put in place diagnostic facilities within the university, not the teaching hospital now. And then these facilities are going to be run jointly with the teaching hospital of the university that trains our medical students and residents. What challenges do we envisage with school about to resume now? The biggest challenge we envisage is social distancing. Preventive measures we can deal with, hand washing and the use of hand sanitizers. But how do you effectively social distance people in the hostels, in classrooms, and all that? And so we are hoping, seriously hoping, that the universal use of face masks will prevent COVID-19 from spreading to our students when they have to come back to school. Because, I mean, the reality is that even advanced economies like the United States and Canada and all that, that have allowed students to come back to campuses, have recorded an increased incidence of COVID-19 in those settings. So there's nothing more we can do besides take the precautions that are humanly possible. And that means, like I pointed out, do what we can, sanitize the environment, enforce hand washing, use of sanitizers and wearing of masks by everybody. We do not, like I said, we do not have the facilities for effective social distancing. And so university has acquired software that will enable distance and remote learning. That is not possible yet for undergraduate students for the reasons that Professor Chiniwu pointed out. We're not sure that all our students can afford computers or smartphones, and that they have the electricity to ensure that their devices are charged, or that they have the means of acquiring the data necessary to ensure that they are constantly online for that to happen. But it is possible to implement this with graduate students. I know I have personally given a number of lectures to graduate students using this Zoom and other facilities that are available for distant learning. All right. So are we ready to receive students back to the University of Port Harcourt? If we are forced to, we will have to admit students. So in that sense, I would say we are ready to receive students. But if resumption date is postponed by any reason, we'll be happier because we are hoping that COVID-19 will eventually be over by the time schools asked to resume. Anybody living in Imbibing State knows that the incidence of COVID-19 has dropped drastically from the tens to the hundreds that used to be a few weeks ago. We now have intermittently 2 cases, 10 cases, and so on. So it is coming down. And we are blessed in this part of the world that COVID-19 hasn't turned out to be the menace that everybody felt it was going to be. We don't know what the reasons are for sure yet, but we think that it's maybe because we're used to having infections, all kinds of infections, We're immunized against tuberculosis, immunized against all kinds of childhood diseases. Maybe that is beginning to pay off for us, Read reports that said that Africa is the first continent to achieve herd immunity, with COVID-19. Maybe all that is true, but the truth of the matter is that we are lucky. The number of COVID-19 cases we've seen in the past 3 weeks have been nearly all asymptomatic cases. 80%, a good 80% of COVID-19 cases in Rivers State have been asymptomatic. They have no symptoms. So in other words, there's something happening here that is probably not happening in other places that are still dealing with this thing. And so maybe if we wait a bit longer, COVID-19 will eventually be over. But if we are forced to resume school, the University of Port Harcourt is ready to receive students as we speak. My advice to government has already been pointed out by Professor Chiniwu is to pay more attention to the essential things that affect everybody in this country. COVID-19 has showed us, exposed the deficiencies in our healthcare delivery system and with our educational infrastructure. So the government needs to learn from this experience that COVID-19 has shown us to fund education and healthcare delivery system better. It is my hope that if they do so, we will be better prepared to deal with pandemics and emergencies such as this and be able to serve our people a lot better. I thank you all for the
Well done. Thank you very much. I think at this point, we're going to have a little interactive session between members. I'd like you to take your seat. Let's all relax and look at this issue of COVID-19, which has come to destabilize us at this point in time. I want to thank all of you, for responding to our call. It shows that all of us are ready as stakeholders. All of us will have our hands on deck as we try to stem the situation. Now, a number of issues have been raised during our discussion, and I think we should address, as members of faculty, as colleagues, we should have an interactive session where we should look at some of these issues. The issue of social distancing has been raised. And there are advantages and disadvantages. The pandemic has, made everyone to sit up. We now know that there are deficiencies in certain areas. It has even revealed some of the strengths that we should have actually leveraged on. Like the Director of Academic Planning, RSU, has mentioned to us that attendance became, something to be proud of. And so I want to say that we have discovered some areas of strength and then some areas of weakness. So let's look at these areas. Social distancing, considering that in our universities we have classes that have very, highly populated classes. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? How do we manage this situation?
Let me take a shot here. I benefited from the presentation from our colleague in River State University, and he talked about dividing large classes into smaller units for purposes of attending classes. The problem actually will not be at those classes. If you watch what is happening in Europe and North America, the problem is not within the classes, it's after class activities. They go to party, they throw party, and they throw everything to the wind. They don't use face mask. They are just living their old life. And they go on a drinking binge. And all the protocols that are put in place for the classes and for all social interactions supervised by the administrators are thrown into the wind. How do we handle such situations? These are youths who believe that they are invisible, that COVID-19 will not affect them, that even if it affects them, it will not have much effect. But the danger is they will then carry it home to their aged parents who will now fall prey to this disease. That is a challenge before us. But I must commend the presentation by our elder statesman, Professor Simeon Ashinewu, who have told us that the government of Nigeria is still not yet abreast of UNESCO recommendation in terms of budgeting for education. We are just burying our head in sand, pretending that somebody else will come from elsewhere to develop our country. Those countries we rush to for summer holidays and the rest of it, they were developed by students. They were developed by academics. And most of the things we are using today, these are all products of research. If you do not invest in education in this country, if you do not invest in health, we are finished. You saw that during the lockdown, most of our rich men couldn't fly. They couldn't go anywhere. All of us became equal.
So let's look at it from this way.
So
Now,
the federal government has to intervene.
yes, federal government has to intervene. Very, very interesting. We'd like to come to our elder statesman. Let us leverage on your long experience in the university and find out what suggestions you have for us.
Well, thank you. If I would fall back to the doctor, if there's any relationship between temperature and COVID-19, temperature may probably help us. If you test everybody going to classroom and they fall within that range, if anybody goes beyond, ask the person, allow those who fall within, the doctor will confirm any relationship between temperature and COVID carrier. If there is, it can be an important to measure those who, to determine those who come. You do not need that social distance. If everybody going in is fit, it can mix up. Isolate those who cannot. Let them stay somewhere else. Alternatively, the universities that have large lecture theater, and utilize the lecture theaters for the large classes, while the department can accommodate those who, the fewer people. So I remember when I was at the University of Ibadan, several theaters where they accommodate very large. As I say, one course we call climatology. Everybody. I don't know. Everybody, very large. Very large. Everybody is a common course for almost everybody in science. So large theaters should be utilized.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I'm also going to give attention to our provost. You know, I know he mentioned that they have created an isolation center, and I'm even wondering, when you isolate, what structure have you put on ground to take care of these students? Are you going to be feeding them? Because
Thank you.
these are things that we find out.
Many we like to be isolated.
All right, so before I answer, let me please address what our elder prof has suggested. Temperatures will go up with patients who are symptomatic of COVID-19. And the point that you good 80% of patients will be seen in the past 1 month as asymptomatic, have no symptoms whatsoever. So you can carry COVID-19 and not have a range of temperature. That's possible. Now, the way to detect who have the disease is to actually do a test for them, which is why they change the system.
But we're not testing.
Well, the thing is that tests are expensive. That is the reality of the situation, which is why we limited testing in our country to only those who are suspected of having the disease or those who have been in contact with those who have had the disease. So that way, we limit it to high-risk people. You know, I'm afraid we cannot afford to test everybody. Otherwise, that would have been our duty. When people are coming back, we test everybody as they're coming, so you know from day one the status of every single individual, so you know where to place them. Unfortunately, that is not possible because of the reasons that we just outlined. Now,
The isolation.
to your question, the isolation. As you know, everybody with COVID-19 in this country is treated free of charge.
Yes.
Every single one. So we're not going to break that chain. You know, so if a student has COVID-19, it will be treated and fed. You know, at the university.
Are you sure many students are not going to decide to come and be isolated? You know, okay, of course they will be tested.
Correct.
Well, before we go to the young man who's going to tell us about government regulations, you know, everybody here has been mentioning government. What are the things that stakeholders outside the society, what do we expect them, you know? At least there should be foundations, you know, people out there who should be helping government. We're going to hear from the man who's going to speak on government regulations very soon. So that it doesn't look like we're pressing it on government. You know, government is not doing so much to help us within the educational area. But then, what other options do we have that we can explore?
Well, there are various foundations in Nigeria. There is Tony Elumelu Foundation. There is this businessman, what's his name now?
MTN Foundation.
Foundation, MTN Foundation. Yes, all of them should get involved to see how they can help government, because the government is not financially very strong since the economy has tanked as a result of many industrial sectors not functioning at optimal dimensions since COVID-19. Planes are not flying. If a lot of planes are not flying the way they should fly, then aviation fuel is not being sold the way, and that is a product from the petroleum industry. So a lot of things are happening. The foundations should step in, but the foundations can only help so much as government takes the bulk of what is expected. The foundation cannot carry the budget of government. They are supposed to support and complement government efforts. And in that regard, I think a lot of them are doing very well. Just that as regards COVID-19, they have helped in terms of providing isolation center. I know that they have gone through the 6 geopolitical zones. But the first set of money that were raised by this foundation and corporate bodies. So they are trying, but they should try more as regards the students not remaining at home.
Okay.
So just to add to what you have said, please. The our treatment center in the university was donated to us by alumni of the university. And the diagnostic center was donated to us by AMD International Federation of
Wonderful.
So the number of people are
Already
completing
did that.
together.
So, as a way of rounding up this little interactive session, I want to say to the River State University alumni and Captain Elechi Amadi alumni, please do something. You have heard from the University of Port Harcourt. No problem. Then we are saying that you should leverage on that, send the message across, and then talking about the little thing we have started. I want to quickly tell the audience that it's a serialized webinar, and that we're going to have one again coming up on the 19th of October. 2020. It's a Monday. It's the third Monday of every month. From now for the next one quarter. But we're not going to do one in December. So we have one in October, one in November, and one in January. And I want to quickly let the cat out of the bag to say that for the October bit, we are going to be looking at online and virtual space learning. And there are a lot of challenges. Like I started talking about foundations, foundations like MTN, foundations, out there should begin to think in terms of helping out with the universities, because online training has to do with data consumption. It has to do with a whole lot of things, and we don't even know whether students can afford, students who haven't paid fees can afford to buy laptops, and Android phones, or be able to sustain the data consumption. And so there should be structures put on ground to actually, bring down the cost of data, so that, because that is going to be the life of everybody now. Like today, I must say it's a beautiful thing I have realized running this webinar. I've worked with people I have never set my eyes on. I have somebody coming in from the UK who is going to be talking with us very shortly. And I have been working with people at Lagos, and even the people in town that I've worked with, I'm meeting some of them for the first time, even those who are speaking. Today from the studio, we're meeting for the first time. Virtual space is it. I think it is a life that we should give a shot at, and I believe that the companies out there, especially network companies, should do so much to bring down the cost of data. Thank you. So we'll be listening to the government regulation, to see the government regulation side of it. And I'm going to usher in Mr. Fineface. I'm sure all of you have been looking forward to see Mr. Fineface do the next Fineface, to know how fine he is. Please welcome, welcome.
I think I may need to probably keep it on. So Youth and Environmental Business Center, NGO based here in River State, and we've been working on this COVID-19 from communities ever since it started, and even monitoring human rights violations within the period in the 9 states of the Niger Delta. So we are honored to be here today to speak on government regulations on COVID-19. And as we all know, coronavirus actually started, in Nigeria, was first reported on February 27th. 2020 of an Italian man that returned to Ogun State on February 25. And then from his country, and then from there, he was tested positive, became the index case, and then was transferred to Lagos for treatment. And then with the index case in Lagos and testing, of those who show suspected symptoms of COVID-19, the cases eventually increased, and Nigeria became one of the countries with COVID-19 till date. Before the index case was recorded in Nigeria, the COVID-19 was first reported in China and other parts of the world with responses from the World Health Organization. Nigeria has started preparing for the possible outbreak should it happen. Thus, with its mandates, in response, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Federal Ministry of Health stepped up their rules to ensuring the safety of Nigerians and non-Nigerians alike in the prevention and containment of the virus with extant laws and regulations. To further strengthen the regulation on COVID-19 and centrally make rules for the effective management of COVID-19 in the country, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 was inaugurated on March 9. The task force was saddled with the responsibility, among others, to coordinate and oversee Nigeria's multi-sectorial and intergovernmental effort to contain the spread and impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Thus, with the mandates also covering overall policy direction and guidance, the Presidential Task Force started making regulations on COVID-19 for the effective management of the virus in the country, including daily press briefing on progress and challenges. In a bid to regulate the spread of COVID-19 cases in Nigeria, on March 21, the federal government, regulated and restricted international commercial flights and in and out of the country, except those who have essential materials that addresses issues around COVID-19 and related concerns. So the federal government on regulation on COVID-19 was further strengthened for the fight against the virus in the country with the signing of the Executive Order COVID-19 Regulation 2020 by the President on March 30, 2020, pursuant to the powers conferred on him in Section 2, 3, and 4 of the Quarantine Act 2004. So the Executive Regulatory Order of Government approved for the first 14 days of restrictions and cessation of movement in Lagos, FCT, and Ogun State, with effect from 11 p.m. on March 30. So the lockdown days were further extended through the regulation with its detailed provisions, setting the pace for nationwide multi-actions and regulations on COVID-19, driven by the Presidential Task Force and governors at both the federal and the state level, respectively. At the state level, we have COVID-19 regulations and restrictions becoming more visible, drastic, and got into place in quick succession from one state to the other in the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. In Lagos particularly, that became the epicenter of COVID-19 in Nigeria, the state government took some steps to regulate and curtail the spread of COVID-19. As such, Lagos was the first state in Nigeria to make its law on COVID-19 called the Lagos State Infectious Disease Emergency Prevention Regulation 2020. Lagos and many other states, including local government councils, also took steps to regulate the spread of COVID-19 within the ambit of the law through executive orders. They also went further and set up COVID-19 task force to enforce their regulations with a peculiar case in Rivers State, where in addition to the state and local government task forces team, the governor directed the traditional rulers to also set up their own task force to enforce government COVID-19 regulations in their domain. So, to further ensure the implementation of its restrictive regulations to curtail the spread of COVID-19, Rivers State went further to construct iron bars and gates at the various state boundaries and entry points to prevent unauthorized persons from entering the state to spread coronavirus disease. So, you have violators of entry point closures, including aircraft and pilots. They were arrested and detained and charged to court in Rivers State for allegedly violating COVID-19 regulatory executive orders of government, with some markets that were shut down, still remain closed till dates, being the 21 day of September 2020. So while both the federal and state government's regulation on COVID-19 last, citizens were faced with the challenges of obeying double government regulation on one virus. For example, with federal lockdown and curfew reading different times, and those of the state contradicting and conflicting federal regulations, citizens were caught up in these and became confused with security operatives cashing in on this to arrest citizens and violating their fundamental human rights in the process. So these scenarios of state government regulations on COVID-19 conflicting with federal rules happened more in Rivers State, where there was state curfew starting 8 p.m., while that of the federal government by 10 p.m., and the police start molesting, arresting, and extorting residents from 8 p.m. to complaints from citizens and organizations like Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center compelled the Nigeria Police Rivers State Command to issue a statement that the police should enforce federal government regulation from 10 p.m. on COVID-19 only. And that was how we move forward from that scenario. So, to date, Rivers State government had in place some COVID-19 regulations through some executive orders that prohibit residents from conducting burials with more than 50 persons or pay a fine of 10 million, taking permission from government before conducting burials, weddings, and marriages. Alleged violators of executive order on hotel closures in Element local government area had their hotels, demolished at the peak of COVID-19 restrictions, with the manager of one, the Progress Hotel, allegedly arrested, quarantined for COVID-19, convicted of violating government regulation on COVID-19, and later released as an ex-convict, despite the fact that he's a PhD holder. So today he's condemned because of COVID-19. Conclusively, with the management of COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria carried out within the ambit of the law, from the Quarantine Act 2004 to presidential and governors' executive orders, etc., citizens are obligated to ensure the prevention of the spread of COVID-19 through regulations and practices like compulsory use of face masks in public places, observing physical distancing in public places, washing of hands regularly under running water with soap, use of hand sanitizers. So generally, regulation or no regulation, COVID-19 had come to stay amongst us, like malaria and other diseases. So we have to learn how to live with it, while government at all levels should ensure effective management of the pandemic by strengthening the health system in the country, train health professionals, with citizens observing all COVID-19 regulations and preventive protocols to stop the spread of the virus. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right, Giselle, you're on now. Please go ahead for your first segment.
Hello, how are you, everyone? I want to say hi to our scholars, our officials, our alumni, and our students. And I want to say how appreciative and honored I am to be able to come and communicate with you in this space. I think it's very important, not only what has been shared among the round table, this very high level round table, but I think it's also important to take into account that in maintaining our own self security within before COVID, it's also very important to know that in caring for yourself, you're caring for others. It's important for us to understand that to be able to move forward, we have to eradicate this. And we have the power within us to be able to do that. in maintaining the protocol, in washing our hands, in maintaining social distancing, but more importantly, to make sure that we're in the present, that we're living within the moment and we're conscious of our surrounds. We may find ourselves in situations which can be a vehicle of promoting this illness that we have to be very conscious of. For example, being in spaces that are very, very close, or doing as one of our speakers today have mentioned, where you have extracurricular activities and you become very laxed. We have to remember that in our hands, we have the future. We can only do it by being healthy, maintaining protocol, and knowing that it's within us that the solution lies. The environment that we're living now in COVID is a situation that is that has posed many difficulties. But we also understand that that knowledge is power, that consciousness from within is very important, especially with you within the youth who are walking in the footsteps of tomorrow, that we have to be conscious that the future lies with you. Be prudent, be in spaces that sometimes we wish that we can go back to, and we soon will arrive there once again, where we can be in each other's spaces and share with each other so many beautiful things that once will happen. We also have to be very conscious of the information that we share. Please remember that everything that you share and you put on social media or in any of these vehicles of communication is what everybody is going to be adhering to. Make sure that they come from valid sources. Make sure that everything that is suggested is true to what the protocol is. For example, the ingesting of anything that is such as sanitizing and other disinfectants are not for human consumption. Please be careful on what we're stating, or even spreading information where we're saying that as precautionary measures, we should take on other duties or other habits that are not medically proven. Because what happens is that in consuming these things, one, it could be that within itself can be a way of finding death. Two, we can maybe even engage in practices thinking that it's a foolproof solution, exposing ourselves to this virus and causing us to become ill. Be very conscious of the sources and the information that you share. The other standpoint of this is knowing that from crisis, beautiful things arise. Dr. Henry mentioned that we're in the era of innovation. And yes, we are. And we're going to use this time to our benefit. Not everything is grim. The future is bright, and the future is in the hands of our youth today. It's in your hands. So let's be safe to be able to move forward in a space that is yours. Let's take this time to improve what we are working to be able to move forward with our missions, but more importantly, working from our creativity strategically and critically to be able to have these wonderful initiatives that can arise from a moment of crisis. I engage you as the youth of this beautiful country that has much to offer, that we use all these vehicles that are now available to us, because now we're all on a global scale. Now we can communicate with people across the way, and we're exploring spaces out of necessity that have become a beautiful asset. We also cannot abandon this subject in any shape, way, or form, but we also have to be very conscious that the role that mental health plays in this space. Social distances is needed. Social distances is vital to our existence. But let's use all of these vehicles to be able to maintain communication with each other, to be able to have the touch, that human touch that comes from a smile, a conversation. All of those things are vehicles that are now available to us, always were, but we have to now find a way to be able to utilize them to our benefits. I am grateful for this opportunity because this is a perfect example of how me here in New York can be engaged with absolutely amazing people in Nigeria and wish to continue so. And I can do it now because of these spaces. So we cannot be grim. We have to be cautious. We have to be diligent, but we also have to seize the moment, see the opportunities, and move forward. I am delighted to know that through these vehicles, we can engage in beautiful relationships. We can start to work, there is no borders, and work across those borders into other countries, into other continents. And that is where we should focus. We should be positive. We should know that with this situation, as difficult as it is, it also has bring forth many answers. For example, how in being in lockdown, so many of these beautiful spaces have now been able to rehabilitate themselves. How we cannot make up the story that now the Himalayas during the blackdown, you could see the top of them because the carbon print had dropped, or that to the Venetian channels, the return of dolphins came due for us as a human component, just letting them subside, just let them exist, I should say. So let's look to the beauties that can also be generated from situations such as this. Let's see how we can emerge from this pandemic in a much positive, healthy, and better society. And that's where we have to focus in alignment with the 17 sustainable goals, in alleviation of poverty, creating alliances, and through education. We should better ourselves. We should take advantage of the moment, seize it for a better tomorrow. And I thank you for the opportunity to be able to come to you and speak to you today, and being able to unite forces, because this is what it is. We're united forces to move forward to a better world. Thank you.
Respected friends, listeners, discussants, and the organizers of this great occasion. My name is Dr. C.D. Chukwu, Dean, Student Affairs, Captain the Chamadi Polytechnic. I wish to use this platform, first of all, to thank the rector of my great institution, Dr. Barrister S.B. Calabon, for asking me to come and represent him here, and also the organizers of the occasion for putting up such a beautiful platform where we can discuss sensitive issues that borders on our students. It's a beautiful platform. Thank you very much. In my own institution, when the COVID-19 issue started by March, we started having the first and second lockdown by April. We thought it's something that would just last for 1 or 2 weeks, and then normalcy will return. But when we waited for a while, it became obvious that, look, this is what we are going to live with for some months. So the institution decided to call the students, and we had to discuss with them. So look, well, this is a new normal. If we keep waiting, we might lose a whole section. We have to bring them to go online learning. And they agreed. And we started online. As for us to start online learning, we
we have to retrain our lecturers because, we are not used to online learning, as it were. Most of us do it out of our own experiences, as the case may be. So we have to train our lecturers. That took us about 1 month, and also bring the students through their own platform. And we started the virtual learning. It's been a success in my own institution. When we talk about virtual learning in my institution, the response has been quite encouraging. Just like my brother, Professor Ede, pointed out here. Particularly for students in HND, just about 1 week now, we completed our examination with HND, all of them. And they're all happy. And the percentage we have there is about 95% attendance.
Wow.
So, and they are also very happy, knowing very well that since they are in the exit class, they can easily work out with this. So the challenge we have now is in terms of infrastructure. You all know our institution and the basic problem we have there. We have a lot of students because we are like the intermediary, providing and supplying to River State University, supplying to University of Port Harcourt, and so on and so forth. So the number is quite enormous. And before this period, we have large classes where we even have to, as it were, establish students, which is common in all tertiary institutions in Nigeria. So what we are doing right now, as instructed by the rector, they considered a committee on COVID-19 to look into the COVID-19 protocols and see how students will observe it, and also how lecturers will observe it. So once you step into our school gate, you will see where you have to wash your hands, and with infrared thermometer to check your temperature, like our prof, the medical doctor pointed out. If it's above 30, if it's above 38, we have to quarantine the person as the case may be. But we've not had any case of that nature. So the committee consulted by the rector, what we have done so far is that we've been able to move from class to class. We've been able to assess the areas where we have large number of students. Such areas, we decided we must put a running water, tap, running water. Because according to the instruction by NCTC, you have to wash your hands in a running water, not just where you take basin and wash your hands. So that is what we have decided to do. We have marked out those areas, and we've made our recommendation to the rector so that we are, as it were, ready to resume once we get the order to do so. So, apart from that, we're also thinking of how to handle the students in terms of rush hours. Because once you resume, students and our Nigerian mentality as it were, everybody wants to rush, fire brigade out where once it's time, people will not go. 5 minutes to the period, the same person wants to crash at the moment. So what we want to do is to create this awareness, like the presenter from, I think US was pointed about. We have to, this consciousness, we have to grow to know that, yes, we are now in a new normal. We don't have to take things the way we were before. So students need to come on time. You have to give them 30 minutes grace so that as they come, they take their time, wash their hands, and go and sit them in the classroom and wait for the lecturer. These are some of the measures we want to put into place to ensure that by the time we resume, we are not going to have any problem. We also have our medical unit. In our medical unit, we had meeting with the medical doctor and all the things there. And we have told them to put the necessary things in place. And they have also agreed to have the infrared thermometer and then to have an isolation center in case we are able to, in case we have any cases, so that we can quarantine the person there for the time being. So these are some of the measures we've taken. We've also had another meeting with the student body so that we bring them through their platform. They'll be able to communicate to students because most of them still don't believe that COVID-19 exists. They believe that it is not real. They think it's something government is trying to make up in order to, get funds either from federal or from any agency. So these are some of the things we are trying to do now to create the necessary awareness for students. But all things being equal, we are ready if we are given the opportunity to resume. Once again, our greatest problem is in terms of infrastructure. We need more classes so that we can segment the students. Like Professor Ede pointed out, if you have a class of 100 or 200, you decide to segment, it's more pressure to the lecturers. Because it means if you finish with A, you have to go to B, you have to go to C, one person. So it's not an easy task. Then, in the chairman will say, the man we named after our institution will say in concubine, he say, unawares can easily be the strongest. You know, but it is through that process you know who is strong. So we are actually handling the challenge as we have seen it. We are prepared to resume if the opportunity comes. I'm most grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
can and will help shape. That's why I would rather.
It's not gonna last again.
can go on now. Hi, Jizo, please go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you very much for allowing me to engage and enter using these modes of communication into your spaces. But these are the messages that we want to send. We want to send that through culture, art, and education, you can achieve absolutely everything you can dream. Ozzy Aru is the perfect example of what it is to be triumphant in the areas of the creative industries. Creative economy is the present conversation. Creative economy is the way that we are marrying living technology with artificial technology, where we are working towards achieving that through creative, strategic, and critical thinking, we will be able to create and change the world from a human component. That's why I appeal to you today, the students that are listening to us, the scholars that are administrating these classes, the officials that can join together as in a catalyst approach, move forward with these students in supporting them. It's through these organizations, such as the one that it shows that is hosting this beautiful event, that we're saying that this is the hope, that in this pandemic and in this space that we are now living, we can emerge to a beautiful new world. And the power is within your hands. The power is within you. Remember, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Education is key. We have all these different avenues that we can continue to speak further in moving past the borders. We have now discovered that through all this technology that has now moved forward many years ahead because of this pandemic, because of the situation we're on, we have moved forward in other spaces that is making all this communication possible, that we're able to move forward together. We're able to communicate no matter what the distance is, that now it's not only a national conversation, now it's a global conversation. I, Giselle Allers, wants to say that I am totally and completely committed to such organizations as the one hosting today, via organizations such as the UN, via Global Creative Economy Festival and the company. I am here to state that together we hold the key to enlightening a beautiful future. And the key is, and the answer is within our youth. I have to tell you, I am in total agreement that through emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, because you have to know where you're from to know where you're going and be prideful of it. We have the world to show who Nigeria is. What does it look like? What beautiful flavor it holds, what beautiful people it has. And now we have all these different avenues to do so. I invite you to work from your creative centers and minds and places to be able to show the world the beautiful culture of Nigeria, the beautiful people that live within it. And this crisis has given us the opportunity. So we have to look at the glass half full, not half empty. We have to make sure that we're healthy, that we keep to protocol, that we're prudent in our social distancing, that we're prudent in the environments that we used to be very accustomed just engaging, especially in extracurriculars. We have to make sure that we do not forget what the situation is, because we will be able to triumphantly submerge from this and move into a better world because of it. We're creating social consciousness. We're creating eco consciousness. We're also becoming very resourceful. And it's that really makes it a success, because it's when you are working from your resources, from your own knowledge and capability and possibility, that you're able to move forward from what nobody can take from you, from your education, from your culture, from your dreams, and from everything that we will support as a community to move forward. Let's do this together. Let's stand together. Let's put forth that through the creative industries and creative economy, we can become sustainable as a country. We're sustainable as universities. We're sustainable as nonprofit, because the truth is that we have to come together on all spaces, because you don't just put a Band-Aid on one sector. We come forth in a catalyst approach where we're changing the world together. And that answer and that future is held in the youth of Nigeria. So I am here to be the light that we all need to grasp onto, the light of faith, the light of knowledge, the light that we have to look from within ourselves to move forward, and to realize that just being present, adhering to protocol, loving yourself so you can love others, because you're not only being safe for yourself. In the safety that you implement for yourself, you're implementing it for others. Let's do this together. Let's move forward and understand that as a community, we can do so many things. I am happy to be able to remember or remind everybody that is through the creative industries that we're true to the human component. It's through telling our stories and transmedia. It's through listening to the music that so identifies us. It's that innovation. It's making things coming easier in being able to communicate. Like, for example, this mode of conversation that we're on now, this mode of communication. It is through film, music, technology. It is through education. It is through absolutely everything that is intellectual property. That is what we can gravitate to make sure that the conversation continues to have that human component. It is also the way we can communicate issues through these mass medias that are ailing our countries, that are ailing the globe in so many spaces. Let's be voice, but let's do it with consciousness. Let's do it from a place of security. Let's do it from a place of communicating what's proper. Be very, very conscious of the sources where we're sending our information from and to. Let's be sure that what we're communicating is true. Let's be sure that in maintaining each other safe, we're also being very conscious that we're moving forward. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to have this moment to express and to share and to more importantly, ignite something that we can do together. We can be very conscious that we're going to be a better society, a better community as we move forward. Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
glad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed your talk, and I'm really happy that we're going to connect again. Thank you so
Most
much.
definitely. I am very, very happy. I am very happy to have engaged with you and with everyone at this table. And I want to say that together we're building a better world.
That's good. Thank you so much. I'm really glad. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And I too am very proud of you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to call the director of academic planning, to come over and give us his last words. We'll also want our elder statesmen to round this whole thing up by giving us the words of wisdom to go along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mukoro, and those who arranged this forum. I am very happy to be in your midst to report on what is going on in Rivers State University, where I am Director of Academic Planning. My name is Professor Precious Ede. Our activities in Rivers State University concerning our reaction to the COVID-19 are many. We looked at the areas of resumption, whether it is possible for us to resume while the pandemic is on, or after the pandemic, how do we conduct ourselves? Like we all know, like many speakers have said, the pandemic has changed the way we see the world drastically. And we are willing to adapt to a post-COVID-19 environment and adjust our activities in terms of accommodating students, learning, and our health sector, you know, in such a way that going forward, we protect ourselves, not just from the pandemic, but all other future conditions that may plague us. When in May, the university authority decided to set up a committee to look at how we could resume learning after we were shut down in March. 3 subcommittees were formed out of that group. One was to look at academic. The academic group was to look at how the classrooms and the laboratories and studios will be organized. The second one had to do with students' accommodation, and the third one had to do with health facilities and how to manage cases if they arise. In the academic sector, it was recommended, and that have been implemented already, that facilities be provided for hand sanitation, sanitizers, and for accommodation, we looked at our capacity and the need to rationalize the current capacity. And for the health sector, an isolation center was created to accommodate students. Then protocols were developed for how to manage incidences when they arise. And during the pandemic, our graduate program was running, and all the graduate programs that were running during that period had to use virtual means of teaching from a distance so that students didn't have to come in contact. And we have noticed that in our own case, particularly in the classes I taught, that student attendance was very maximum. We had so many students that were even better than when students used to come face-to-face to have classes. For instance, people were able to log in from distances like Warri, Lagos, and people who work in establishments like oil platforms were able to log in, and they all participated happily in our classes. We are willing and ready to move these achievements to accommodate the undergraduate classes. But what is holding us back now is that some of them come from remote places and they may not have the infrastructure to receive classes if we offer them. The university, I come from Rivers State University, are about to take exams for undergraduates. In fact, that exam is going to have started the day the federal government locked down all tertiary institutions. And we hope that if the pandemic slows down or comes to a halt, that perhaps they will come and write that exam face-to-face, but they will not write that exam in the same environment as we used to have exam in the past. They will have to follow the protocol that the federal government and the university have laid down. And that means that distancing between students, the washing of hands, the wearing of face masks, and the use of hand sanitizers and all other protocols have to be applied. So that is the much we've done. In all this, the university, in spite of all the effort it has maintained internally, have not received a lot of help from outside. So we are calling upon all people of goodwill, including this association, to come to our aid. If we get as little as a bottle of hand sanitizer, it will go a long way to help us achieve our aim. Already the university itself, to its chemistry department, has produced hand sanitizers that are well distributed at a stage. We supplied actually the River State government some cartons of hand sanitizers to let them know that we have the capacity to do some of these things. And the engineering department of the university have also produced automated systems that can dispense water, sanitizers, and other personal hygiene processes that will be mounted at strategic places for both staff and students to use as a way of living with the virus. I wish to thank you all for letting me be on this program.
Thank you so very much. This is really wonderful. Let me quickly use this moment to show appreciation to those who have sponsored us. My appreciation goes first to the River State University. We're proud of you coming to support USGEEAN, United States Government Exchange Alumni Association of Nigeria, River State Chapter. We are proud of you because this is our own home, and we don't expect help to come from elsewhere other than from stakeholders in our state. We also want to seize this opportunity to thank the rector of Captain Elechi Amadi Polytechnic for sponsoring part of our program. You know, we are Oliver Twist. We keep coming. Please, when we come, help us. It's an advocacy program. We're trying to help to disseminate information. We are forming partnerships, you know, with stakeholders out there. We'll also thank the University of Port Harcourt, who has provided us with facilities to run this program. We're running this program for a quarter. Our next program will come up on the 19th of October, 2020. It's also a Monday. So in other words, we'll be having this webinar on the third Monday of every month, and it will run on till January, in exclusion of December. So we'll have one in October, we'll have one in November, and one in January. We want all our followers to keep this in mind and keep tag with what we are doing. Especially university students, tertiary institution students, and those stakeholders out there, parents who have children in the tertiary institution. It is an opportunity to follow events happening in the universities. We also want to use this opportunity time out to thank the U.S. Consulate we're really proud of you. We keep running to you as our mothers, as our fathers, and you are always there to cushion it all. We want to thank you especially for the relief materials you have provided. You have provided face masks, hand wash, soap for hand wash, you know, buckets, you know, to put in water. So we're really proud of you. You have provided these facilities, which in good time we're going to distribute to the different universities that have tagged onto this program. We are looking out to form partnership with other groups like networks, you know, that are involved with providing data, networks that are, you know, interested, engaged in educational activities. So please, this is an opportunity to tell you out there that when you see USGEEAN, you can see our logo. Our website is www.usgearv.org. Please visit our website from time to time because we'll be having a whole lot of information for you. When we come around, please give us a pat on the back where your representative will be coming back to you again in a short while. But before we leave, well, like I said, you know, there's always, we give respect to elders in Africa. You know, our elder statement here is going to give us his last words, and after which he will now give us his prayers to lead us. Thank you very much for following us this far.
Yeah.
Professor Achinewo, thank you. Thank you for coming. Our first, most senior Fulbright scholar. Let's do the normal thing. Well, you're welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And we thank God for helping us today to make a successful presentation. We're talking about COVID-19. We know it's a reality. And for the past 7 months or so, the institutions were closed and the students were sent home, teachers were sent home, more or less. And what we're trying to do now is to see how we will continue despite the difficulties. We've learned lessons from the COVID-19. Some people and some universities, some institutions are still on using the technology of e-learning. We just hope that it will go round. While we wait for the COVID-19 to end, on our own side in Nigeria, where we believe in God so much, we know it must end one day. It cannot be there forever. Just like any other one, it must end. And therefore, we will do something to make sure that our education is continuous. If it is possible for the students to come back, as we are making preparations to receive them, there are certain things that must be in place. Infrastructure must be in place. And that will assist us in the learning. In our own situation in Nigeria, we know that the difficulty in infrastructure, developing infrastructure, some universities have tried to do e-learning, but they had partially succeeded. But we believe that we convince those who assist in funding the universities, especially the public universities, to increase their funding. The budget must be improved upon to provide the facilities needed for a continuous education. Where there is an interruption, there must be a way out. So we thank everybody that have helped in the past. Here in Nigeria, the private institutions have been on with their e-learning. Some public universities have done so, but not all. We plead with those who fund public universities to increase their funding. But not only government funds public universities, other people too who are interested, because every sector in the world benefits from education. Education being the most important industry that trains human capital development to supply to every sector of the economy. We are appealing to those who can afford to assist the universities to do so. But for today, I think we are done, and we thank the American consulate that had been assisting us also to make impact in that area of education during this COVID-19 period. We are very grateful. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Arise, O comrades, Nigeria's following to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and might, one nation bounding freedom, peace and
Where's the American?
America.
Where's the American?
Nice one.
Americans.
Is there any way we can get